Plastic guitars, $30,000 to spend, and personal credit maxed out. Nobody expected a game built on borrowed time would explode into a $2 billion phenomenon. But Guitar Hero did not just transform living rooms. It rewrote what success meant in gaming, only for corporate greed to shatter that dream faster than anyone imagined. How did the ultimate fantasy turn into an industry cautionary tale? The answer starts with a single, desperate gamble. Kai and Charles Huang stared down the barrel of their own bank accounts. Every dollar for Red Octane's next move came straight from their pockets, or worse, from credit cards they had already maxed out. The dot-com dream that launched their first company had fizzled, leaving them with a warehouse of unsold dance pads and a pile of bills. But the brothers were not ready to quit. They believed a plastic guitar could do what no American game had done before: turn regular people into rock stars right in their living rooms. The plan was as risky as it gets. With the last of their savings and a handful of personal loans, the Huangs scraped together a development budget that hovered around $1.75 million. It was enough to cover manufacturing, a basic game, and a shot at a retail launch. For marketing, they set aside just $30,000, barely enough for a few magazine ads and a single trade show booth. The rest would have to come from word of mouth. Their sales forecast was almost comically modest. If they managed to move 10,000 units, they would call it a win. Anything more would be a miracle. This was a true risk. Manufacturing was a gamble all its own. The Huangs needed a factory willing to build a custom guitar controller in small batches at a price that would not bury them in debt. They called in favors from old suppliers in China, negotiated every penny, and even considered mortgaging personal assets to keep production alive. Some nights, the only thing between Red Octane and bankruptcy was the hope that the next check would clear before the bills came due. Investors wanted nothing to do with the project. Rhythm games were a niche imported from Japan, and nobody in Silicon Valley believed Americans would pay for a plastic instrument. The Huang's pitch meetings ended with polite smiles and empty promises. So the brothers doubled down. They cut costs everywhere. No fancy office, no paid focus groups, no big launch party. Just a handful of employees, a garage stacked with prototypes, and a growing sense that they were betting everything on a single roll of the dice. Every day brought new stress. If the first shipment did not sell, there would be no second chance. If the guitars broke, the refunds alone could sink the company. Kai Huang later described the feeling as an existential crisis, one where every decision could be the last. But behind the anxiety, there was a stubborn belief that the right game, with the right partner, could break through. They just needed someone who understood music as well as they understood risk. Red Octane's search for a creative partner led them to a small Cambridge studio called Harmonix. While Red Octane had a vision for the hardware, Harmonix brought a different kind of expertise: a team of musicians, engineers, and self-described music game obsessives. Alex Rigopoulos and Aaron Agozi, both MIT graduates, had spent years trying to build games that captured the feeling of making music. Their earlier projects, Frequency and Amplitude, had won praise but never found a mass audience. The idea of a guitar-based game, played with a real controller, was exactly the kind of project Harmonix had been waiting for. The partnership came together on a handshake and a shared belief that music games could be more than a passing fad. Red Octane handled the manufacturing and distribution. Harmonix took charge of the game's design, pouring every lesson from their previous work into a new kind of experience. The first prototype guitar was modeled after a Gibson, with 5 colored fret buttons and a plastic strum bar. It looked like a toy, but the tactile feedback and clever engineering made each note feel real. Getting the controller built was a test of nerves. Red Octane turned to Honeybee Corporation in China, a trusted supplier from their dance pad days. Every detail mattered: weight, button feel, durability. The team agonized over the right balance, knowing that a single flaw could doom the whole project. Early samples arrived by air freight, sometimes just days before key meetings. The cost per unit left almost no margin for error. Still, the Huang's persistence paid off. Red Octane's relationships with retailers meant Guitar Hero would get shelf space, even as buyers doubted anyone would pay $70 for a game bundled with a plastic guitar. The big break came at E3 2005. Harmonix set up a small booth and let the music do the talking. Crowds gathered as journalists, developers, and executives lined up to try the game. The sound of More Than a Feeling and Iron Man echoed across the show floor.
By the end of the convention, word had spread. Guitar Hero wasn't just another rhythm game, it was an event. Retailers placed orders that dwarfed the team's wildest forecasts. The game launched for PlayStation 2 that November. Within weeks, Guitar Hero racked up $45 million in sales, selling out in stores across the country. Red Octane and Harmonix had proven that a simple plastic guitar, paired with the right software, could turn living rooms into concert stages. The risk had paid off, and the stage was set for a cultural explosion no one could have predicted.
Guitar Hero didn't just sell, it exploded. Within months of Guitar Hero 2 hitting shelves in late 2006, the series had pulled in $200 million, outpacing even the wildest projections. The real surge came with Guitar Hero 3, Legends of Rock. Released in 2007, it became the first video game in history to cross the $1 billion mark in sales, catapulting the franchise into a league shared only with Mario and Madden NFL. By 2008, Guitar Hero had cemented itself as the third best-selling video game franchise in the world, but numbers only tell part of the story. The plastic guitar became a ticket to instant stardom at house parties and college dorms, where players lined up for their shot at Through the Fire and Flames or Sweet Child O' Mine. Mainstream media could not get enough. Late-night hosts, celebrities, and even professional athletes picked up the controller on camera. National tournaments drew thousands of competitors and fans, while YouTube filled with clips of impossible high scores and crowd-pleasing performances. The impact stretched beyond gaming. Bands featured in the game saw digital sales spike overnight. Dragon Force's signature track jumped 20-fold, and Aerosmith's catalog sales multiplied 7 times after their dedicated Guitar Hero release. For a generation, Guitar Hero became a way to discover new music, turning classic rock anthems and deep cuts alike into pop culture staples. Fan communities flourished. Online forums and local meetups buzzed with strategy guides, custom song charts, and stories of all-night marathons. For many, the plastic guitar was more than a toy. It was a symbol of belonging, a shared language that crossed age and background. The franchise's success was so undeniable that corporate giants began circling, eager to stake their claim in a phenomenon that seemed unstoppable. In June 2006, the Guitar Hero franchise changed hands in a deal that stunned the industry. Activision acquired Red Octane for $99.9 million, as confirmed in SEC filings. The company's leaders saw more than a hit game. They saw a blueprint for a franchise that could be managed and scaled like Tony Hawk or Call of Duty. Within weeks, the creative partnership that had fueled Guitar Hero's rise was split apart. MTV Networks, through its parent company Viacom, moved quickly to secure Harmonix, the studio behind the game's musical core. That acquisition, valued at up to $175 million with performance bonuses, gave MTV a new foothold in the rhythm game market, but left Guitar Hero itself without its original architects. Activision's strategy was clear from the start: keep the hardware and publishing rights, and transition development to an internal team that could deliver annual releases. Neversoft, best known for the Tony Hawk series, was handed the Guitar Hero reins. Their mandate was to replicate the rapid, reliable production cycle that had turned skateboarding into a perennial hit. Internal presentations outlined the goal: multiple titles per year, each maximizing shelf presence and quarterly revenue. The creative process that once revolved around musical innovation now answered to production targets and licensing negotiations. This new structure brought a wave of changes. The split between hardware and software meant that business decisions started to outweigh creative ones. Licensing deals grew more complex and expensive. Slide decks circulated among executives, forecasting growth through relentless output. The focus shifted from building a cultural phenomenon to hitting sales projections, one stock-keeping unit at a time. For the people who had built Guitar Hero from scratch, it was a jarring realignment, a handoff from risk-taking founders and music obsessives to corporate strategists and financial planners. The fate of the franchise now rested in the hands of those who measured success not in community or artistry, but in quarterly returns. With the franchise's popularity came a new kind of pressure, one measured not in sales, but in contracts. Early Guitar Hero games had relied on cover bands and sound-alike recordings to keep costs down. But as the brand soared, expectations changed. Players wanted the real thing: original master tracks, authentic solos, and even digital likenesses of their favorite stars. Rights holders quickly realized the value of their catalogs, and the price for each song began to climb. By 2008, licensing a single hit track could cost $100,000 or more. For the biggest anthems, the fee sometimes reached $175,000. These were not just numbers on a spreadsheet. Every new set list meant a fresh round of negotiations, with music publishers and artists holding the upper hand. The stakes grew even higher with exclusive deals. When Activision secured Aerosmith for a dedicated Guitar Hero title, the band walked away with a guaranteed advance reported at $5 to $6 million, plus a share of every unit sold. Aerosmith's catalog sales multiplied sevenfold after release, but the contract set a new benchmark. Other artists and labels saw the payday and wanted in. Master recording rights, likeness approvals, and revenue splits all piled onto the cost of each release. The economics that once made rhythm games a goldmine now threatened to reverse the flow. Meanwhile, the competition was heating up. Harmonix, now under MTV, launched Rock Band and began bidding for the same songs. The rivalry turned the licensing market into an arms race, with both companies outbidding each other for access to classic tracks and superstar acts. Music publishers were happy to play both sides, driving prices even higher. Activision's internal forecasts called for more releases to offset the ballooning expenses. The only way to keep revenue growing was to push more titles onto store shelves, faster than ever before. The invisible cost of music rights was now steering the entire franchise. In 2009, Guitar Hero's logo crowded store shelves like never before. 6 separate titles hit the market in just 12 months: Guitar Hero 5, Guitar Hero, Metallica, Band Hero, DJ Hero, Guitar Hero, Van Halen, and Guitar Hero. On tour modern hits. Each came with its own box, its own set list, and for many, bundles of new plastic instruments. Retailers who once fought for every shipment now faced aisles overflowing with unsold stock. Buyers at major chains warned that shelves were full and storage rooms were packed, but the releases kept coming, driven by internal forecasts that more products meant more revenue. The numbers told a different story. According to NPD data, rhythm game sales collapsed by 46% that year. For every new Guitar Hero title, fewer customers lined up. Shoppers who once waited for midnight launches now hesitated, confused by the avalanche of versions and unsure which bundle to buy. Retailers resorted to deep discounts and clearance bins, trying to clear out the backlog before the next wave arrived. Inside Activision, some developers and former Red Octane staff raised alarms about consumer fatigue, and a market stretched past its breaking point. Their warnings went unheeded. The franchise, once a cultural juggernaut, was now a victim of its own success, oversupplied, overexposed, and on the verge of financial freefall. On February 9, 2011, the Guitar Hero team gathered for what would be their last meeting. Some heard the news in person, others by email, and a few through social media before official word arrived. In a single morning, Activision dissolved the entire Guitar Hero business unit. More than 500 people, including designers, programmers, artists, and testers, were laid off. For many, years of work ended with a severance packet and a badge left on a silent desk. Developers described the shock in diary entries and forum posts, recalling the confusion and disbelief as human resources representatives read from prepared scripts. Some learned their projects had been canceled only after being escorted from the building. The shutdown hit hardest at Neversoft and Red Octane, where even veteran team members were let go without warning. A secret 7th Guitar Hero title, already deep in development, vanished overnight. Promised updates for downloadable content stopped abruptly, leaving players with only what they had already purchased. Warriors of Rock, the most recent release, had flopped at retail, but few expected the end to come so suddenly. In the days that followed, silence replaced the buzz of music and code. The franchise that once filled stadiums and living rooms alike was now reduced to empty offices and unanswered questions, a $2 billion dream, shuttered in a single day. Freestyle Games, a small British studio, took the last shot at reviving Guitar Hero in 2015. Their answer was Guitar Hero Live, a game built around a new 6-button controller and a streaming service called GHTV. Instead of buying songs outright, players accessed a rotating catalog of music videos, paying for premium access or unlocking tracks through play. At launch, GHTV offered 484 songs and promised a steady stream of new content. But the new model came with a catch. Every track depended on ongoing licensing deals, and nothing was guaranteed to last. By December 2018, GHTV's servers went dark. Overnight, 92% of Guitar Hero Live's music library vanished, leaving players with just a handful of songs. Angry customers filed a class action lawsuit accusing Activision of false advertising and breach of contract. The company responded with a limited refund offer, but the damage was done. Freestyle Games, the team behind the reboot, was quietly sold to Ubisoft. With that, Guitar Hero's last official note faded out, a franchise that once made billions, now reduced to a cautionary tale about digital ownership and corporate retreat. For players and developers alike, the promise of a living, growing music platform ended not with an encore, but with silence. Today, millions of plastic guitars sit silent, while music games struggle to recapture that old spark. As the industry chases new trends, Guitar Hero's collapse stands as a warning. Creative magic can't survive unchecked corporate expansion. The echo remains, reminding every developer and player that lightning in a bottle is rare, and even billion-dollar dreams can vanish overnight.